Welcome, learners. Today we are going to take up a fresh chapter titled Impact of British Rule in India, Economic, Social, and Cultural, from 1757 to 1857. As you know, in our previous chapter, we had discussed about the rise of colonialism and imperialism in the world. In our today's video lecture, we will study part first of chapter 5, that is, the coming of British to India and the process of India's colonization. First, let us try to find out the reasons that led to the coming of British as colonizers to India. Learners, as you are well aware that the Britishers came to India as traders. Since the Industrial Revolution in Britain created demand for raw materials as well as market for the finished goods. India was a big country with a very large population. Therefore, the British were attracted towards India. During this time, the internal condition of India was also weak, as there was no political unity. This gave the English chance to occupy India. Learners, the British used the internal quarrels among rulers in India to hold control over the Indian states. They fought many wars and signed many treaties with various Indian powers, and from economic power they gained political control over India. Once they gained political control, right to make economic policies also came to them. All the decisions that the British made were for the benefit of Britain and harmful for Indian trade and industry. Few steps were taken by the British to control trade and commerce in India. Let us now discuss those steps one by one. All the imperial powers, like France and Holland, were defeated by the British so that they had no competitor in Indian trade. Heavy taxes were imposed on Indian goods entering Britain so that they became costly as compared to the British goods, and demand for Indian goods decreased. Learners, now we will discuss the third point. Railways, post and telegraph were introduced in India so that transportation and communication became faster and easier than before. English education was introduced in India so that the process of communication became easier. As these English educated Indians could understand the commands of the English and convey them to the Indian people. Let us now try to understand the process of colonization in India. Learners, as you already know, that by the beginning of the 19th century, all the countries of Asia and Africa had already been colonized. However, with the spread of industrial revolution in Europe, more and more countries became industrialized. These newly industrialized countries required raw material for their industries and also markets to consume their ready made goods. This naturally led to enmity and wars between them to control as many colonies as possible. In England, a trading company was formed in 1600 AD known as the East India Company. This company had the support of the British government. Slowly, the East India Company became a big economic force in India. In the year 1613, the first English factory was established at Surat. However, the first factory in South India was established at Madras called Fort St. George. Do you know that around this time Sir Thomas Roe was appointed as the English ambassador to the court of Mughal Emperor Jahangir? Who gave him the permission to raise factories at Agra, Ahmedabad, and Broach. Slowly, the East India Company became a strong economic power and began interfering in political matters also. At this time, there were many small states in India that kept fighting with each other. Company's victory in the Battle of Plassey and Buxar made Britishers a strong political force in India. Before moving forward, let us take a look at these two important battles of Indian history. First, we will talk about the Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Plassey was fought in Bengal in the year 1757. After the battle, Mir Jafar was made the Nawab of Bengal. In return, the British received the territory of 24 Pargana from the Nawab. However, the Nawab was not able to make all the payments to the company. So, he was replaced by Mir Qasim. The new Nawab was not ready to fulfill the unnecessary demands of the English. Therefore, he was removed and Mir Jafar was once again made the Nawab. Against this, Mir Jafar made alliance with the Nawab of Awadh and Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. As a result, the Battle of Buxar was fought on 22nd October 1764. The Indian side was badly defeated in this battle, and the hold of British was firmly established over Bengal. However, it was not easy for the Englishmen to occupy the rest of India as many regional powers opposed them. Let us now look at the various wars that were fought with the British by the Indian powers. Learners, first we will talk about the Anglo-Mysore Wars. The most important of all the anti-British struggles arose in the state of Mysore in southern India. During the latter half of the 18th century, Mysore had become a powerful state under the leadership of Hyder Ali and his son Tipu Sultan. 4 wars were fought between the British and Mysore, known as Anglo-Mysore Wars. However, with the death of Tipu Sultan in the fourth battle, the British were able to occupy many large ports like Kannada, Coimbatore, and Seringapatam. Now, we will talk about the Anglo-Maratha Wars. Learners, now we will discuss the second series of war fought between British and Marathas. Marathas were an important regional power of India during the 18th century. However, there was no unity among them, and they kept fighting for power among themselves. This gave English the chance to interfere in their internal matters. Many wars were fought among the British and the Marathas, about which you will study in detail in later parts of this chapter. However, the Third Anglo-Maratha War was the last war fought between the Marathas and the British, which resulted in the end of the Maratha power. Their chief Peshwa was sent to Bithur near Kanpur as a pensioner of the British. Now we will discuss the third war fought between the British and Sikhs in the country. In northern India, the Sikhs became an important political and military force under the leadership of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. The British were not happy with the rise of Sikhs and wanted to bring them under their control. With the death of Ranjit Singh in the year 1839, the internal unity of Punjab vanished, giving the British the chance to interfere in the internal matters of the Sikhs. This led to the beginning of the First Anglo-Sikh War in the year 1845, which ended with the defeat of the Sikhs. However, the Sikhs were finally defeated in the Second Anglo-Sikh War. The Second Anglo-Sikh War was fought in the year 1849. With this, their power came to an end. The state of Punjab was occupied or annexed by the British, and Maharaja Dalip Singh, who was the son of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, was sent to England as a British pensioner. Learners, these were the three most important wars that the British fought against the Indian powers. Besides these important struggles, many other means were also adopted by the British to establish complete political control over India. The most important among such policies, Doctrine of Lapse, and Subsidiary Alliances. Are you familiar with these terms? Let us take them up one by one and try to understand in a better manner. First, we will discuss the doctrine of lapse. This policy was introduced in the year 1848 by the then Governor General of India, Lord Dalhousie. This doctrine was based on the idea that in case the ruler of an Indian state died childless, that is, without leaving a natural born heir, the right of ruling will pass on to the British. It must be remembered that adopted sons were not considered as successors of the Indian rulers. The main reason behind the introduction of this policy was to annex more and more independent Indian states. Learners, you will be surprised to know that the British were able to annex many Indian states due to this unfair policy. These places were Satara, Sambhalpur, Udaipur, Nagpur, Jhansi, and Awadh. As far as the Subsidiary Alliance is concerned, this policy was introduced by the then Governor General of India, Lord Wellesley. According to this policy, those Indian states which were under British control were needed to suspend their armies and maintain British armies at their own cost. These states could not decide their own foreign policy and the right of making treaties with other states was given to the British. In return, the British were to protect these states from any attack or fight with other powers. Learners, it is very important to understand that the policy of annexation of Indian states for one reason or the other not only harmed the Indian rulers, but it also affected those people who were dependent upon them for their survival. For example, soldiers, craftsmen, nobles, scholars, and priests, etc. It is very unfortunate to say that by the mid 19th century, no Indian power was capable to stop the rise of British, and the British were able to become the masters of our country for nearly 200 years to come. Therefore, with this, we come to the end of this video lecture. But before saying goodbye, let us summarize what we have learned so far. Number 1, expansion of British East India Company in India. Number 2, causes behind the conversion of British from traders to rulers of India. Number 3, Occupation of Indian states due to Doctrine of Lapse and Subsidiary Alliance. Number 4. Struggle with the regional powers like Mysore under Tipu Sultan, the Marathas, and the Sikhs. That's it for today. I hope you understood the chapter well. If you have any doubt or query, you may send us email at signlanguage@nios.ac.in. Also, you can visit us on our website www.nios.ac.in. Thank you.